Hey everyone, it's Stephanie here. Today I have a video to share a card I've created with the new Watercolor Stripes stamp from My Favorite Things. This is a really great background stamp that has stripes on it, but they're kind of wonky. They're not perfectly straight, so they kind of have that look of watercolor to them when you stamp with them. So I decided, why not actually watercolor with it? So what I did is I just laid the stamp directly onto my work surface. This is how I tend to use any large background stamps. I like to just lay them onto my work surface and bring the paper to the stamp. And for this technique that I'm going to do here, it's especially better to do it this way because I'm going to be adding a bunch of water to this stamp once we have the ink on there. So I picked out a bunch of ink colors, a nice beautiful rainbow of color, and I'm just going to start adding color to this stamp, and I'm going to be adding one color to every two stripes on the stamp here. So I'm going to start with yellow, and I'm just going to kind of tap that along on the top two stripes and just until I have it fully covered in ink. And then I'm going to continue down and keep adding a different color. So I just added orange. And sometimes when you add the color, it'll overlap on another stripe. And you know what? That just even adds even more to it because it makes the colors blend nice together. As long as you're going in an order with colors that tend to blend nicely together and don't create muddy colors, then it's even better to have a little bit of overlap because it really just pulls the whole image in together. So now you can see here I have it completely covered in ink. I'm going to take a spritzer of water and I'm going to spray this probably 5 good times. I really want it nice and wet, but I mean I don't want the ink like rolling off of the stamp, but I do want quite a bit of water on there so that we get a really good inked image. And then I'm going to take a piece of watercolor paper. This is a piece of Tim Holtz watercolor paper, and I tend to usually like to use the smooth side of watercolor paper, especially if I'm doing any stamping. But since I know I'm not going to be stamping on this and it's just going to be a background piece, I decided to use the more textured side just to add a little bit more dimension and detail to the card. So I laid it directly onto that stamp, and now I'm just kind of moving it around with my fingers, pressing down so that it fully covers it, and you can see I'm kind of making a mess. And I just used some tweezers to lift this off of the stripes. You just want to be careful when you're lifting it up because it's very wet with water, and the water will definitely run on it if you kind of are pulling it or moving it around. So I just use tweezers and go into the open area in between two of the stripes and just lift it off that way. So you can see here I have one that I did prior, and this one is completely dry, and we'll use this for our card design. And you can see the difference in the green. I used a different green on the first card and it looked a little bit more olivey, so I went brighter on the second card, and I definitely like the second card better. I just think for the look that we're going for in the rainbow of color, it was nicer to have the brighter green than the olive, but I'm going to go ahead and use that olive green piece here and create a card. So to create a sentiment, I'm going to stamp my sentiment with Versamark ink onto a black strip of cardstock. This is going to allow me to do some heat embossing. I'm going to use white embossing powder on this to really make the sentiment pop right off of the little cardstock piece. And I really like to add sentiments onto black with the white embossing powder over top of a really busy or bright background. I just think it really helps it to stand out and really let your eye see the background, but still also be able to see the sentiment. So I just went ahead and heat embossed that, and I'm just adding some foam tape to the back of it, and I'm going to adhere this directly onto the card front. I couldn't decide at first where I wanted it. I kind of moved it all around. At first I was going to put it in the very center top area of the card, and then I decided that I liked it kind of better down a bit on the right hand side. So I just used my T-square ruler to line that up and get it straight. It's kind of hard to use the stripes as a guide for the sentiment strip just because they're not straight, so it kind of throws your eye a little bit. So I felt like the T-square ruler really helped me get that positioned how I wanted it. And then to finish off the card and add a little bit of dimension, just because it's a very flat, simple card, I am adding some clear sequins to the area above and below the cardstock sentiment strip that we've added there. And then I'm also going to add some silver stickles to the center area of all of those sequins just to cover up that little opening. It's my favorite way to kind of add a little bit more to the sequins, and I usually like to add a couple dabs of stickles on their own. And then that's going to complete the card for today. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.